Okay, what are we doing? Roll call? Okay. Councillor Wright.
Hello.
Councillor Knack.
Good evening.
Councillor Principe.
Hello.
Councillor Stevenson. Councillor Paquette. Councillor Tang.
Good evening.
And Councillor Hamilton has given notice that because of prior commitment, she's unable to join. She might be able to join, but she has advised that she may not be, right? So, and so Councillor Rutherford,
Still here.
Councillor Salvador,
Good evening.
Councillor Cardinal,
Good evening.
Councillor Rice,
Good evening.
and Councillor Jans.
Good evening.
Okay. All right.
And, sorry, Councillor Stevenson is here. Sorry.
Hi. Okay. We were speaking to this. So, Councillor Stevenson, you are next to speak. Or
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to speak now to both this motion and I think subsequent votes if they occur. So I just want to start by thanking absolutely everyone who's been part of the conversation over the past few days. It was fascinating to see Edmontonians reflect back many of the same conversations we've had amongst ourselves in these chambers and bring forward even more considerations and dimensions to this conversation. We've seen people who may have felt in opposition to each other find common ground and shared values, which to me is the hallmark of a successful public conversation. While I don't think consensus was reached, I did hear support for the broad outcome of the CRL extension of Ford and the range of exciting projects it offers. And it's that decision that's before us today in terms of making the choice to say yes to what's in the CRL plan. I know many Edmontonians and also myself remain with some questions about one project in particular, the event park, and how we deliver that in a way that ensures that the highest success and the highest return for Edmontonians. And that's a critical conversation. I won't be supporting the referral motion today, but I do that in the knowledge that we have a decision point yet to come, which is approving the master agreement. I think we heard clearly from our legal advisors that passing the CRL today, there is explicit reference that those two projects are contingent on the signing of the master agreement. And so for me, what approving the CRL today allows is not further conversation in public with our community. So again, thank you to everyone who participated. Thank you to my colleagues. What's maybe gotten lost in this conversation is the excitement and opportunity that these investments offer not only to our downtown, but our city as a whole. So I look forward to that ongoing conversation and discussion ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cardinal.
Oh, thank you. Enough is enough, honestly. We've been talking about this for many, many months. We know what the big elements are. We know generally what is in front of us in terms of an agreement. There are fine details that would be contained in the master agreement, which we can debate or tease out or move forward on or amend or what have you when we reach that point and it's presented to us. But we know what the big elements are. And I think, quite frankly, these referral motions that are before us are just delay tactics. I think that, that we can recognize that there are some people that just don't support this deal when it includes the event park. I don't quite understand why. And I'm going to come back to that. But I don't think that these referral motions are actually going to change the minds of those that are not in support of this deal if it includes the event park. So I don't like the idea of a referral being moved that effectively sets our administration up for failure, but forces them to work through the summer on something that they're not going to be able to be successful on. I think that we either effectively direct them and instruct them to move forward towards a master agreement, or we don't. And I think that we should just vote and move on. I'm not sure why there's such a distraction around the event center. There seems to be this notion that one private sector entity is going to, unduly benefit from the development of the event center. Everything we do in terms of the CRL benefits a private landowner in some way, in some form. So it's really a matter of scale. And we happen to have, one landowner who's, a public figure, probably not through any interest of their own, but because of the position they hold. And I just think that is very misplaced. I think, too, that if we look back at the CRL that we've had, one could imagine what the ice district and surrounding area would look like if OEG had only invested $100 million. Imagine if the only other thing besides the arena was a 6-story wood frame apartment building and that was it. They have not only demonstrated their commitment to making this work, but they have put their money where their mouth is, very literally. In large part, the dollars that have gone into retiring the debt of the CRL are due to the OEG. Not exclusively, not entirely, but in a substantial part. When you've got a development partner that has done what they have done, that is a reliable partner that will continue to do what they're going to do, I don't know why you hand that back. I've talked to people from other cities, from other places. I've had the privilege of touring around North America because it's a thing I like to do, and I can tell you there'd be so many cities that would be just thrilled to have an OEG pounding this kind of money into their downtown, particularly right now. And I just do not understand the pushback. And through another lens, this idea that one particular landowner is going to benefit, disproportionately, I invite anyone to do what I did a couple of weeks ago and walk through that event center when it's active. It's not just the OEG that benefits, it is everybody who takes a walk through that space that benefits. I wish there was more landowners downtown that would activate their empty spaces and actually do that kind of a thing and invite more people downtown on more occasions. I just don't quite understand. So, but I get it. Not everybody agrees on this point, so fine. Enough of the delay tactics, enough of the kicking the can down the road, enough of the what ifs and the what abouts. There's enough detail in front of us to decide whether we want to proceed with the deal or not. Defeat this motion, vote on the main, and let's get on with getting on. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cardinal. Councillor Knack.
Thanks, Mayor Sohi. I'll touch on the main piece after, but I guess for me, I just wanted to offer a little bit about when I think about the referral pieces, and here's my occasional memory lane. My first term on council, we had a pretty heated discussion around EPCOR and what to do with them. And through that discussion, there were actually 3 different times, much to the disdain probably of almost every one of my colleagues, there were 3 separate times I made motions to refer that back to get more information. And I did that because that was a hundreds of millions of dollars decision for something that, unfortunately, for a variety of reasons, it was not the most easy to navigate in the public dialogue. So there wasn't a lot of great public engagement on a decision like that. And I'm glad I did that. Like for me, as much as I know, actually, I think my colleagues on both sides of that vote, because it ended up being a 7-6 vote by the time the final decision was made. I think the other 12 hated me by the end of it because of how many times I asked for some more information. But for me, it was genuinely important to make sure that I could clearly communicate the importance of that decision, why that needed to be a part of this. This motion is actually different in that it's not actually asking to delay. I mean, I understand that there's a little bit of challenge of bringing it all together, but I believe in our city staff that have that ability to work on that and bring this forward. So I don't think it's unreasonable for the scale of the decision that we're being asked to make, especially considering this is, I mean, I know we had our meeting in March and, in May and those, but I mean, this was truly the first real public opportunity for engagement, and so. So I wanted to offer that as a reason as to why I appreciate the mover making the motion. I think it's a fair request to make of any councillor to get that additional information. And again, whether or not council decides to support it, I wanted to make sure I shared my my experience of why I think it's reasonable to ask for things like this. So I'll be supporting the referral motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Knack. Councillor Salvador?
Yeah, thank you. So just I'll speak to the motion on the floor, just the motion on the floor, and then the broader conversation, depending on where we go from here. But I do appreciate the motion that's been put on the floor. To me, this is about process and about having a complete picture and adequate information to weigh the decision in front of us. And we know that the master agreement will provide further details around risk mitigation, further details around the financials, and some more concrete commitments to some of the questions that we've raised today. I think the challenging part for me is that there have been sort of numerous gates throughout the process that we've been advancing through and stepping through, and now that we've gotten to a public dialogue, and that's something that I've been advocating for. They're also looking for a complete and holistic picture of the decision that's in front of us so that they can weigh the overall benefits of this deal. And I think that's important for building public trust and delivering the degree of transparency that folks would expect. So I do think it's reasonable to have this work come back at the same time as the master agreement, just to allow for a more complete set of information. I also think given that this deal has been positioned as a package deal, being able to have a package of information for a holistic picture is fair. Just for an example, I found it challenging that we've been referencing things that are technically they're outside of the CRL conversation, like the $55 million towards exhibition lands and the Coliseum demolition, which are really important parts of this deal for evaluating its overall benefit. But that level of detail hasn't necessarily been provided in the information package we have today. So again, this is about complete information, and yeah, I'll leave it there, but appreciate the mover putting it on the floor, and I will be supporting it.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Councillor Cardwell?
I have the chair.
Thank you. I'm going to speak to the entirety of this as well, not just this referral motion, which I would not support. Over the last while, I think every North American downtown coming out of COVID has struggled with a lot of challenges. And this council has shown a very strong commitment to bring more activity, more life into downtown and more vibrancy into downtown. And those investments are starting to turn things around. And what is in front of us today in the form of the list of projects that are being proposed to be included in the CRL and the opportunity for partnership with OEG and Government of Alberta allows us to build on that success. So I would say the time is to act, and to act now. These kind of opportunities don't come our way all the time. We have a very prominent, committed organization in our city who has a demonstrated history of delivering for Edmonton. The original CRL that was started in 2015 in partnership with OEG has garnered the results that no one ever imagined. I sat in these tables at that time, and I was skeptical of those returns, but they have shown that collectively, city, OEG have shown that when we work together, when we bring private sector and public sector together in the right conditions with the right parameters and accountabilities built into it, we can all thrive. And our downtown has seen that investment of close to $4 billion. What I'm excited about this is housing. We need more housing. We need more housing in our downtown. I heard over and over and over again that in these new conditions, more people living downtown is the key to revitalization. And if we can build another 2,500 units along with 25 that have been already in the works or delivered, that's almost 5,000 units and maybe 10,000 people, if not more. Another key to success is more people coming downtown to enjoy the activities and amenities. And the creation of the event center will create those opportunities for people to come downtown, right? Yes, my colleague, Councillor Stevenson, corrected me on which is the largest facility, which is the facility that attracts more people downtown. Yes, Convention Center does. And that's a phenomenal thing in our city. But let's add another facility that will bring down 400 to 500,000 people into our downtown. That's what we need. And half of those people will be from outside the city. And we heard from the hotel industry that more hotels being filled help reviving and strengthening that tax base that we have lost in the downtown. So this is going to be another, in my mind, another win-win situation. I also want to say that I understand there are apprehensions on this table towards our provincial government. I share sometimes those apprehensions too. But they came to this table with good intention of investing in our downtown. They saw the value of creating new opportunities for people to come downtown and creation of the event center and the housing. They really believed in that. I trust that they really believe in that. And I acknowledge that. And I think we need to celebrate in a way that we have city, we have province, and we have private sector really committed to our downtown. So let's build on it. Let's make this a reality. Maybe 10, 15, 20 years from now, we will look back and say we made the right decision. And I also appreciate everyone who participated in this discussion. I value the opinions and the input. I came into this with open mind, and I value the input from my council colleagues. But the time to make a decision, and time is now.
Return the chair.
Yeah. And I will go to Councillor Wright to close.
Thank you very much. From the guidance that we've received from our legal counsel, I believe that this process does not contravene anything in the MGA, so I'm not sure where some of those comments were coming from. And I don't think it's going to be any more work or resources for our staff, because this work to complete the master agreement was already being planned and to come back in August. So again, I question that rationale. But for me, this agreement's not just about one project within it. I think it is the whole package, and that's why I wanted to see the bundle sort of come together so that we can, I guess, make our decision based on full information. I think I'm just being thoughtful, pragmatic. I just want those details because, again, if we vote in favor of the CRL extension right now, without really knowing the full details, we're still signaling our intent to our partners that we would still be voting, I guess, in favor of whatever the master agreement says. So my concern is with the housing. There's no guarantee, there's no certainty that the housing will be built. And I think that's what will lend to the vibrancy of our downtown core, is to have those residents there 24/7, 365 days a year, not just coming downtown for the occasional event. The public benefit is another concern. And I know that's something that the province has also indicated, that there's a requirement to have that public benefit, public use. I would like more details on that as to whether it would be something that would be used by the public. So I guess I'm strongly encouraging my council colleagues, not timidly, but strongly encouraging them to support this motion. And if it doesn't pass, I'm sorry, but I'm not able to support the CRL extension without having this full information and without the public having the full information as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. So please vote.
No, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Councillor Hamilton. We have all the votes.
Okay, thank you. Display the votes, please. That is defeated 4-9. Can someone move the closure of the public hearing?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Can we, hi. Might want to call for new information?
New information. Can we do after reading, first reading? No? Okay, and close. Any new information? Colleagues, any new information that you seek to ask to anyone? You do? Councillor Beckett, go ahead, please.
Sorry, Tim.
Speaker Shipton, please come down to the podium.
Okay, so you've heard the words so far. You saw the vote. Now we're going to be facing the vote on whether to proceed with the bylaw or not. There was a question from a councillor earlier to administration that wondering if they could come forward with a master agreement and bylaw to be voted on at the same time at some future date. They said yes, but when you were asked if that was an option, you said no. And I'm just wondering if there's a disconnect here.
I think what we're looking for is a signal from our partner about their commitment. I think answering the previous question from your council colleague, we're enthusiastic, we're ready to go. We've been having these conversations for the better part of 2 years about the opportunity to invest in our city. We've done a tremendous amount of diligence with administration, but we're sitting here today saying, is this the time and place to invest in the city? Complications to that, there's a consequence that it shakes your confidence to invest the hundreds of millions of dollars that it's going to take for these projects to move forward. These are not decisions that that get made lightly, and so.
I guess what I'm curious about, like, you understand, I think we're all very much on the same page that if this deal does not look good for Edmonton, for Edmontonians, there is no deal, right?
Correct.
But we don't know that until we see the master agreement.
That's right.
And so the decision point is not tonight. The decision point tonight is to get the information. And so we've heard all along councillors saying they want the information, but if they vote against this, they don't get it. But are you comfortable with the fact that once that information comes forward, if this passes tonight, like you were aware that does not mean that the deal is done. It means that
Correct.
we look at the details of the deal to see if it's advantageous.
That's right. The MOU laid a strong foundation, but there's still work to do, right? We're in active negotiations with administration. We're in active conversations to come up with a level of detail needed, both from our perspective and from what we've heard from council and administration from the city's perspective,
And the public.
to make sure that and the public, that this is a deal that works for everyone.
Okay, and so understanding that a vote tonight would say, okay, let's take a look at those particulars. Council made a commitment. They signed a memorandum of understanding to follow this path, understanding already, like the constrictions and the pressures we were under. We still signed that memorandum of understanding. We made a commitment. And nothing has changed in that time. And now there's the possibility of breaking that commitment at the 11th hour to not even look at the information. And again, it might not pass muster. Your thoughts on that?
We have work to do. We feel like we can get there. There's still a tremendous amount of lifting to do between now and August for everyone to feel comfortable. But we entered that MOU in good faith. All three parties signed it.
Can I ask you a tough question?
Yep.
What's your word worth?
We feel we've been a partner that has delivered, and we feel like.
How about you personally?
And my word is everything.
Yeah, me too.
Has to be.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Paquette. Councillor Jans?
I wanted to move the referral motion I put in the chat. I'm not sure if the clerk has it.
We can put it up.
Sure, thank you. That bylaw 21158 be referred back to administration to remove all references to event park and prepare any necessary amendments to the financial analysis, advertise the updated bylaw, and return to a future public hearing. That administration provide a report to the July 2nd/4th, 2025 City Council meeting with following information. Number one, is it possible to add a question on a ballot for the municipal election related to the public support for event park as outlined in bylaw 21158, Schedule A? Two, wording options for the question on the ballot. Number three, outline implications for the MOU between COU, City of Edmonton, Government of Alberta, OEG. Next, outline costs and other impacts to the municipal election and any other considerations.
Need a seconder? There is no seconder. Thank you. Closure of the bylaw. Closure of the public hearing.
I can move closure of public hearing.
Second.
Okay. Thank you. And so thank you so much. Please vote to close the public hearing.
Just waiting on 2 votes.
I'm good. A second.
Mayor?
I got it.
Councillor Hamilton? Will mark Councillor Hamilton absent. We have all the votes.
Thank you. Councillor Stevenson. Councillor Stevenson? We display the vote, right? Oh, we haven't?
No, we need to display the
I'm
vote.
ahead of my time. Okay.
All right.
Okay, display the votes, please. Here, it is carried now. Councillor Stevenson? You want to move?
We can't hear you.
Sorry, I'll move first reading.
Here you go. Good. I'll second it. Please vote. No. Oh, sorry. Speak. Okay. All right. Just being so selfish here today. I am being selfish. Sorry. Councillor Tang, go ahead, please.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Very intense 2 days, of course. I want to thank everyone for coming out for this very rigorous debate.
lots of passion, lots of thoughtful comments, ideas, insights, and not just those who came forward, but also those who wrote in by email in the community, including those from my ward, Garihio in the southeast. I think it's very clear that there's no easy yes or no, but there's a lot of different thoughts about how to best move forward to support our downtown. And I think that is the common thread in this. So I'm going to speak to this because, after all, we're being presented with a CRL plan. We're not being presented with individual projects. And so I think that is a thread I want to focus on, is how we want to support downtown overall. I also had a chance to hear from residents in Ward Garihio in the last many months about the CRL, what it means for Edmontonians who don't live downtown. You know, I heard from residents that community development is important to them, that affordable housing is important, that investing public dollars should give us a public benefit or return. And I think in the last many, many months, these principles have been very consistent throughout the process and the negotiation. And this has been a negotiation, and I can appreciate that this may be the first time we're having, actually it's not the first time, this is the second time we're really having, a public debate about this. But through that process, I think we've improved what we have today. We have now a number of new projects being added. I think there are a number of documents that have been also shared through motions, increasing the transparency of this conversation. And the CRL we're talking about today is, yes, it's focused on downtown. It's a very particular financial instrument with the tax uplift generated going back into a specific area of the city. And it won't necessarily flow, into the rest of the city for decades. But I want to highlight that this CRL and the downtown revitalization does impact all of us across the entire city. And there has been a lot of talk about what do working folks want. The working folks I talk to in my ward tell me that rents are too high, taxes are too high, the roads are congested because of growth, the core services need to improve. I absolutely agree with all of those pieces. But what we're looking at overall is what it will allow investors, particularly commercial or industrial, when they make decisions, and I've learned this for the past 4 years, when they make decisions about where to invest in Edmonton, they take downtown, the condition of downtown, into consideration. They could be setting up shop in the southeast, the west end, the north side, but they will look at the heartbeat of the city. And that's what I think this journey will lead us, is a better downtown that will factor into people's consideration when they make decisions about investing in the future of the city. And what that will do, especially the non-residential piece, it will help offset the residential tax base. It will add to the operating budget to improve those core services, to offset the residential tax base. And I think that overall will make it a little bit easier in the long run for people and their quality of life. And if I compare to 4 years ago, I think downtown is in a very different place. In many ways, it has been better, but the changes have been incremental. And we're not going to see an injection at the scale and scope that we're talking about right now. And I want to emphasize, too, that the CRL isn't just a pile of discretionary dollars on the table that we get to use. There's still many stages and milestones and checkpoints that's still to come. And we have the attachment 5, the letter from the minister. And if I'm reading between the lines, if we want to change the terms, it's going to be over. And if we want to walk away from this at this point and to say, no, thank you for all of it, then I think we're going to be doing, I think it overall is going to be much more harmful to the city. I don't want to see that happen. In my ward, we have a $1.8 billion public transportation infrastructure in the LRT connecting Millwoods to downtown. And many people tell me they don't want to come downtown, and I think we need to give them more reason to come downtown. And I think this will be one of those things that will get us there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. And Councillor Rutherford.
Thank you. it was really great conversation. I want to start by thanking all the speakers that came today, and similar to Councillor Tang, every conversation that I've had with residents in advance of this, as well as all the emails that have come in to my inbox on this item. Clearly, it's important to Edmontonians. I'm actually kind of agnostic to what's in or out of the CRL. Like, at the end of the day, I am not here to pick winners or losers or projects, or to have conversations about if the Winspear is more, viable than a 100th Street pedestrian bridge. I actually don't care. Like, no offense to Winspears here. Like, I think they're all important. What I keep coming back to, and what's been mulling over my mind time and time again through this discussion, is that our theory of change is fallible. We all want a different downtown. We don't want the status quo. But does this actually test the assumptions that we're putting for our theory of change as a CRL, writ large? And I don't think it does. And in fact, I think the extension locks our funding for 2 more decades, for 20 years. Now, I know, yes, I agree with Councillor Tang that the vibrancy and world-classness of your downtown affects whether global or international or even national companies make their headquarters here. That's undeniable. But what I see every day, I have 11 industrial areas that I represent in the ward, and so I've talked to many of the business owners there that are literally on the brink of shuttering their doors. And they're like, why would we stay here when we can literally go 5 kilometers to Atchison and spend significantly less on property taxes? That's what we're actually facing. So the more we lock into these CRLs for longer and longer periods on a risk, because there is a risk. Now there's lower end risk and higher end risk and potential to hit the 2044 mark or not. All of that's debatable, but the reality is risk is risk is risk. And meanwhile, for another 20 years, how many more industrial businesses are we going to lose? We have an industrial action plan that I think is essential to the overall viability of our city and our fiscal health, that I think this CRL is in complete contradiction to in terms of spreading that out. And again, the CRL is already happening. We're already doing it. We're already investing in downtown. So this idea that we haven't been, or that we haven't, the CRL existed well before this council and will go even without the extension till 2034. So this idea that we're not doing anything is also fallible. Lastly, the other thing that I keep coming back to is this concept of social disorder. And if we invest and we build really nice things, but we still have the social problems. I hear from businesses all the time, the broken windows and the cost that that has on them, the feeling of safety and all of those things. They're still not going to be vibrancy. Gentrification is constantly in this room framed as a good thing. But the process of gentrification over time has shown that it simply displaces the issue. And again, I heard the speakers today, but I've heard the speakers at so many public hearings, and I'm still hearing the voices from the residents in Macaulay where they're not seeing that vibrancy in their neighborhood. They're seeing a significant decline. And we hear from Chinatown all the time about all the problems and the challenges that they're facing. From 118th Avenue, business area. Not everybody is seeing the benefit of this. And so I'm trying to take all of those voices and all of the perspectives and ball it into, what is a very gray decision, and there's really no right or wrong answer, but I have to make a black or white decision. So with that in mind, purely thinking about the decision before us is an extension. Am I willing to lock us in for another 10 years? I am not. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rutherford. Councillor Jans.
Yeah, I want to, like everybody else, thank everybody who came to speak. It was very informative and appreciate the discussion. And I just go back to what we asked the government of Alberta for in the budget. We wanted a restoration of property tax in lieu. And I will say, initially the province said no. Everybody said no. The province doesn't owe you anything. They're not gonna give you that. But Mayor Sohi, to his credit, launched that campaign, put pressure on the province, and sure enough, in the budget, they're gonna start paying the taxes going forward. When the government said we're gonna end the ride transit funding, Calgary, Edmonton community members, we all rose up and said, no, that's critical, and we got a better deal. They restored the funding. This government, over and over, as tough as they may seem, even though they have no seats in Edmonton, even though they have all sorts of powers and all sorts of other, it can really seem like David and Goliath sometimes. But they do fold. And we have an election coming very quickly. And they want to win, not just in Edmonton, but across Alberta. And they know that they need to think about affordability. They need to think about working people. They need to think about those things. It's so funny, like even the statement, we're going back and forth about like, is this required or not? And even how they phrase it to us is, if this were to change, government would have to reconsider its support. Reconsider. They won't even say, no, take it or leave it. They won't even use a binary term, yes or no. They are saying reconsider. They'll think about it. You better do this, or else we might change our mind. So I go back to what we've asked for, what Edmontonians want. They want safety, they want affordability, they want mental health, they want housing, they want to see people taken care of. We see Trump tariffs coming again. We see all of this other global uncertainty right now. And an event park? When I think about all the things I hear from my constituents, when I think about the scrappy entrepreneurs on Happy Beer Street who are scrambling together to put together a little happy festival street on 78th Avenue, when I think about all of the other small businesses that I went and talked to and said, well, the Chamber's saying this, do you agree? Is this what you want? People have been framing this as downtown or not. It's not that. It's deal or not. People have been saying, well, look at what the arena did for us. It's not about arena. It's about the deal behind the arena. I've been shocked at how few people know that their property taxes are going up this year because of the education property tax that over next year, the province is going to be collecting an additional $50 million from Edmonton taxpayers. Over 20 years, that means Edmonton taxpayers will be paying over $1 billion in education property tax. And who's going to get blamed for it? Future city councils. Oh, our taxes are too high. I remember Henry Edgar was right here, autograph, talking about and asked, what is your barrier to building more units downtown? He said property tax. It's not just the municipal property tax. It's all of these pieces here. We've got one partner. We haven't tested the market. We haven't tested other partners. This is why you don't have a sole source contracts without a good procurement process. Sure, OEG may be able to offer 2,500 units for this much money. There's a lot of other people who could offer units. Let's break it up. Let's go to help small builders. We'll break it down to an even smaller figure and see who can give us, on 10, 20, $30 million grants. There's so many more things we could be doing. But this has been reverse engineered from the beginning, where the Flames got a deal, so the OEG went to the province and said, we want our share too. And instead of it going to pay off the debt on the arena that we have so the CRL could be profitable and we could be lowering taxes, instead of us having a fair shake, we've been dragged along as council for the ride saying, well, take it or leave it, take it or leave it, take it or leave it. And even still, because I think when I read reconsider, the province doesn't want to wear this. It's like, I remember seeing the debate Premier Smith was saying, well, I think Notley said to her, like, well, you supported the Calgary Arena deal. And she said, oh, Calgary City Council wanted it unanimously. can't roll the tape to find the clip, but it's there.
Thank you, Councillor Jens. Councillor Hamilton.
I don't know if there's anyone else to speak, but I'm just getting settled, coming back from a medical appointment. I could use the grace of 2 or 3 minutes in order to get my notes in front of me. Thank you.
Councillor Cartmel.
Great, thank you. Again, appreciate all those that did come out to speak. We heard so much from so many different people, and it was my feeling anyway that there was a number of people that came out to speak against this deal because they had the notion that it was effectively a grant or a gift to one particular party, and you know that wasn't factual, and that it's kind of disappointing actually that it was that kind of information that was put out and kept out. You know, we're in kind of a fragile place here. We were reminded of this by a number of people whose everyday existence depends on a healthy downtown. And I get that downtown isn't the only thing in the city, but it is sure critical. And we heard from those people, through data and facts and information and informed opinions that we were at a tipping point, quite frankly. And I sort of, I was thinking about in the negative, what do we actually do if we don't extend the CRL? And I'm just not sure what that looks like. If we can't finish the Winspear Center, if we can't find a funding source to initiate the housing that we want to see across downtown, that we don't have self-liquidating debt to do the site servicing, we only have, the debt sources that we already use. How do we build a financial model when we just don't have the funding sources to draw upon? And we've been working on this for years. We've got partners in the deal, and those partners, have their own gains as well, to be sure. But this is the path to extending and expanding the CRL so that we have the funding source we need to catalyze our downtown today and reap the benefits starting today. And it's a proven model. Up until COVID, the CRL downtown was paying for itself in leaps and bounds. We were seeing the process work. And it's true, nobody, predicted that we would have this weird interruption in our global world that changed how space is divided between work and play and work and home. We didn't see the knock-on effects necessarily of post-COVID, inflation and those kinds of other economic impacts. So it's required a reset. It's required an extension of this plan. But if we get back to where we were to some degree, we're going to see that the plan actually works. We're going to see that our downtown really can catch fire and can really start to expand and to be that livable place that we want to see. And particularly on the housing pieces, this is how the tool that we have so that we can go into the university district and start incenting the housing that we need in that space, that will then incent the hospitality services that housing will demand. This is how we begin the spiral back up to make downtown that self-sustaining place. And and to be caught up in a misplaced misunderstanding of who is the beneficiary, and to ignore, frankly, that it is all the people in Edmonton and all the people that will come down to downtown Edmonton that will be the beneficiaries of these collective investments, I think really misses the point. And so, I really strongly encourage my colleagues to support this bylaw change. There is the opportunity to tease out all of the very fine details in terms of agreement coming later. But if this fails here, then there's no opportunity at all to see this work continue forward. It dies here. And if it dies here, quite frankly, I don't know what we do next. I just don't see an alternative path. And I've been here before when it felt like a big dark cloud was hanging over this city for 15 years, and I really don't want to go back to that. So I think we need to support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cartmel. Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you. I also want to echo my thanks to the speakers who came out, both in support and against this over the last couple of days. I always appreciate hearing the diverse perspectives because, as you know, we go into these public hearings with an open mind, and hearing from people I'm particularly usually touched by people who heard about something or read something in the news and felt compelled to come down to City Hall and to speak to something. I see the CRL as a mechanism by which the people who care about the city and invest in their city can bet for the future of that city. And I think for that CRL to work effectively, one of the fundamental understandings is that your municipality is underperforming based on what its full economic impact could be. And in the downtown CRL, that has proven to be true. And if you lived in Edmonton in the 90s or 2000s, when there was a Staples on the site where Edmonton Tower now is, you knew that for the economic prowess Edmonton has, the CRL or our downtown could have performed better, but that it needed a catalytic project to shock the system and create focused growth in the city. The value proposition is that in that uplift from catalytic projects, there's a generation of indirect value for the entire tax base, what we would call better than business as usual, with an eye to the localized impacts of catalytic projects. No doubt, if you visited other cities and you have seen the shiny new projects directly adjacent to the crumbling infrastructure around it, you know how important this is in terms of keeping the value close, keeping the uplift close to the neighborhoods that are being the most affected by catalytic projects. But I also want to address that we heard from people who live and work in areas like the Quarters or Belvedere, or even pointing to Calgary, where the CRLs may have had limited success. And I want to say that I would like to see benefits come to those areas as well. But the CRL mechanism just may not have been the best mechanism by which to incent that growth. I would also like to say that on balance, I heard support for the extension of the CRL. Though I understand the reservations that many of the speakers have about particular parts of the project and the allocation of funding to specific projects, I didn't hear anybody say this CRL should terminate in 2034. The question, and that brings me back to the question I feel we are here today to determine, which is if the extension is a good idea, and I was really listening for the counterpoints in not extending it. It's come out again and again that the pandemic and 2 recessions interrupted a really bold economic plan in our city. And I don't think that's just true for Edmonton. I think that's true for a lot of municipalities around North America and broadly across the world. And so it is no surprise, I think, that we might need to tweak this piece of legislation and look for other less impactful, but nonetheless catalytic projects that can help reignite the energy that we had in the city 10 years ago. Now, the last thing I want to say is that there's been a lot of conversation about essentially what's in it for me in my neighborhood. And I lovingly refer to this as the Chicagoization that's happening in Edmonton, where we look at our neighborhood as being the center of our universe. But I bring back what so many speakers spoke to, which is that when the downtown of the city does well, when the people in the downtown do well, it incentivizes economic growth, it incentivizes investment, and it gives people outside of that neighborhood the confidence that their city is a vibrant place and a great place to live and work and invest. So I will be supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Knack.
Thanks, Mayor Sohi. And again, start by thanks to all our city administration who's been here working tirelessly over the months and months and months, to all of our speakers who were part of this process, and to the folks who were calling and emailing over the last little while. So for me, talked about this already, but I do fully support the downtown revitalization, and I actually think the CRL is a good tool that we should use to do the revitalization work. But I think the deal that we have in front of us is still not good enough. So one of the reasons I voted against the Memorandum of Understanding last year is that it seemed like instead of starting from a place about how we could best invest that $330 million that the provincial government was talking about, felt like we found ourselves in a place where a good portion of that money was predetermined without having the benefit of a real public dialogue on how we would build a better city and how we would address the various challenges we have across the city. So I'm glad we did receive some clarity that the provincial government shared in that letter that essentially, although I also saw the word that they would reconsider, but it does very much seem like the extension of the CRL is contingent upon the inclusion of all of those projects. My frustration is I don't think that's how we should have been engaging in this process. I don't think this was starting from a place of good faith. It's felt like we were starting from a place of we had to go in a particular direction and there was no other option without the benefit of actually engaging the people that we serve. And so over the last couple of days, we've heard from individuals, we've heard from small, medium-sized businesses that they would like that public support. And I hear the concern that we can't be everything to everyone, but I was at the Stony Plain Road spring meeting last month, and they are feeling fatigue about not seeing anything really after years and years and years of feeling beat down and picked on and without any type of relief. Similar to Councillor Rutherford, I think about the industrial area, Winterburn Industrial, which they don't even have to go 5 kilometers. They can literally go across the street into a significantly lower tax jurisdiction that has full utilities, where they don't. And there's a lot of question around how and where will that investment ever materialize to start bringing those places up to what we want, because we don't have an unlimited budget. And so this is what I keep coming back to. The extension of the CRL could have happened, and then there could have been a separate, entirely thoughtful conversation about how the province can invest in this city to make sure we're accomplishing the things that we want to accomplish. And so that's where I think this falls apart right now. This deal isn't doing enough to address all of those pressures that we're facing. And even within the context of the downtown, I think similar to some other folks that have already spoken today, we spent the last 4 or 5 years talking about housing and homelessness and how, it's worse now than ever before. And I don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. Gosh, I would love to just take that $330 million and put it all into housing. We could actually probably house every single person with that. Not just in the downtown, but across the city. But we didn't even have a chance to have that dialogue. We started from a very different place, and that's where I think I have had such frustration in this process. And even in that letter we got that we just accepted today, I will, similar to what Councillor Jans noticed, the word is reconsider. So I would continue to say that I don't believe and I don't accept that a better deal is impossible and that it's not worth the risk of at least asking the question. Looking and hearing what's happening, I think this is going to pass. And so my hope is that between now and September, there is some really thorough work leading into that master agreement, and I know our administration will continue to do a great job as they have. They've been following the direction of council through this process. But that is going to be our next step, and to really dig into what is, I think, a very imperfect situation, one that we never had a different opportunity to explore in the first place, but that will be our next opportunity to hopefully get the best value possible in an imperfect deal. But in the meantime, I'll be voting no on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Knack. Councillor Principe?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to say that 3 years and 8 months ago, I stood on the steps out there at City Hall room, and I took an oath on the Bible saying that I was going to be dedicated to making the best decisions for the city of Edmonton, and not for my own self-purposes, but for Edmonton as a whole. And that's how I'm basing my decision today. No political grandstanding here, just good sound, in my opinion, good sound decision-making. I hope that people understand. I heard some disparaging words about lining the pockets of a billionaire, and I don't like my integrity being questioned, and I just want to say that my decision is coming in regards to the best interest of the city of Edmonton. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Principe. Councillor Salvador?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, really appreciate all the speakers who took time to be part of this dialogue. And I'm just reflecting on the importance of process and the importance of being able to have an open and honest and transparent dialogue with Edmontonians about these kinds of decisions. And again, that's something that I've been pushing for throughout this process, is being able to get to this public conversation. As I mentioned before, my preferred path would have been to have all this information sort of bundled as a package and evaluated as a package, but recognizing that has failed. Now in a position to evaluate whether or not I'm going to support this. You know, I'm reflecting on the advice of our administration, and what we heard from legal earlier is that ultimately we end up at the same decision point when the master agreement comes back. And if at that time the deal does not deliver adequate public benefit for Edmontonians, we have an opportunity to say no and to make a determination at that time. I want to also just share some of my frustrations around the position that we have been put in. I don't think we've been put in a fair position. And unfortunately, I think that has become more common because as a municipality, we do exist inherently in a power imbalance with the provincial government. I think about CRLs as a tool, and they're tools that are supposed to reflect the priorities of the municipality. And in our case, it does feel like a provincial priority has been inserted and included into the list as a bit of an anchor and is being positioned as a take it or leave it style offer. And what that does is it places us as decision makers in a position where we have to weigh the good parts of this deal against the not so good parts. And, you know, I want to be clear that I have serious reservations about Event Park. In my opinion, you know, if we want to be serious about revitalizing our downtown, as we heard from numerous speakers throughout this dialogue, there are so many unaddressed social issues that need to be part of this conversation. Until we address those, our downtown is going to continue to struggle. But again, when I look at the decision in front of us and the package in front of us, there are things that I'm excited about: housing, transit station upgrades, district energy and other public infrastructure, the wind spear, and as the ward councillor for exhibition lands, I know that many of the residents that I represent are eager to see accelerated redevelopment of that site and demolition of the Coliseum. But again, there are parts that I'm not comfortable with. I continue to question the public benefit of Event Park. However, I'm not the participating party that is demanding that that be included as part of this deal. So my focus is really on ensuring that all of this bundled agreement is made clear for Edmontonians so that they get to see the financials and the details behind this deal. That is critically important. And to do that, we do need to get to a master agreement. Some of the details that I'll be looking for in the master agreement: surety around housing, how many homes, how many units, and the expected assessment for that initial build out. I'll be looking for clarity around revenue sources from the building for Event Park, taxes, the lease, any potential ticket surcharge, and ultimate clarity around community benefit. I'll also be looking for information on linked components of the deal and a very clear line of sight and surety around funding for the Coliseum demolition and any associated remediation and investments into exhibition lands. And those details really matter, and those financial details matter. And at this point, I will support this to get those details and the information we need and the public needs to arrive at a place where we can fairly evaluate this deal's merits as a whole. With the fundamental caveat that if the deal isn't good for Edmontonians, there won't be a deal. So again, I really, really appreciate everyone for taking the time. I'm reminded of, I'm out of time. Oh no.
Sorry, Councillor Salvador.
I'll end there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Pickett. Quick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I first want to acknowledge all the people who came out to speak for and against, and bringing their passion and their love of this city to this room. And I want to thank administration for their incredibly hard work. And I want to thank council for their due diligence, and the mayor specifically for his hard work in bringing almost impossible dollars to our city, or at least the potential of it. The conversation has been thoughtful, and the concerns raised are real about transparency, public trust, opportunity costs, fairness, and long-term commitments. None of us take this decision lightly, nor should we, and that's how it should be. And a word about narratives. I grew up in a home whose traditional stories had no forced villain. The drama in those stories arose out of the interplay between characters who had their own interests and motivations, but all of them justifiable to the individual. And you could see why, but the characters could not always see why. The point is, there will always be misunderstandings and differences of opinion, and that's a good thing because it teaches us to be human. And these are very human decisions. The goals in those stories was to teach, and the primary lesson was usually be true to yourself. Fight for what you feel is right, but always proceed with compassion and understanding that our world is not the world. It's something we share. I also grew up in a reality that meant my family had to scratch out an existence and fight for a place in this world. I know what it means to have nothing, to have challenges, and the fight you have to bring to get anything good in this world. When you get something that will help so many people, you take it. You take it with both fists. There's being in your rightness, and there is doing right. And that difference is everything. Having said that, it's not up to council to make sure that people are better capitalists. It's up to council to do the work that makes life easier for people, better for them, and that they're able to fight for their own dreams. Financial mechanisms like the CRL are one tool to do it for all of Edmonton. The province does not really gain anything from this extension, not politically anyway. This is a testament to the hard work of the mayor that I mentioned before and of our administration to bring those potential dollars to our town. But I do want to clarify that this bylaw, what it does and what it does not do, it's not an endorsement of any final deal. It does not lock us in. It creates the legal mechanism, the authority for our administration to move forward with the negotiating of a master agreement, a framework that we can all look at and that Edmontonians can see. We owe it to the public to govern with clarity. That means sequencing our decisions properly. First, we create the legal foundation, then we direct the negotiations, then we scrutinize the results. That's how we maintain accountability, credibility, and protect the city's interests. About mixed messaging, the CRL is not intended to solve social issues. Only social efforts can do that. This is not either or, and maybe it's not even both and. Much of that is out of our control, but what is in our control is our responsibility, and we have a responsibility to be frank and honest with our partners and with the public. Let's be honest, this file comes to us in a challenging political environment. Many Edmontonians are deeply skeptical about billion-dollar deals and who benefits and whether their voices matter. That's real. And we have a responsibility to reflect that concern in our diligence. This vote is not a rubber stamp. It's a key that unlocks the next potential step, if approved. If we pass this tonight, we're saying let's negotiate with purpose, let's scrutinize the final deal, let's protect the public interest. But we cannot do any of that from the sidelines. I'm voting to move forward because the people of Edmonton deserve a council that understands process, respects its tools, and leads with clarity, with purpose and intent. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Paquette. Councillor Stevenson, to close.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to all my colleagues for sharing their thoughts. Yeah, I'll put together a few of those themes. You know, my colleagues are right that everything that we need for a vibrant downtown and a thriving community is not in the Referral. We need to continue to find solutions, working with our partners to address the underlying social issues and ensure that we invest in our community as a whole. But it's one of our speakers said yesterday, saying no doesn't solve these issues. Oh, we seem to be bringing all solutions to the table. I think it's important to take advantage of the tools and opportunities.
Councillor Stevenson, you're kind of fading in and out.
Is that better?
Yes, much better.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for patience. I won't start again unless my colleagues would like me to. But, you know, there is so much to be excited about this CRL writ large. You know, I'm particularly excited for the Wind Spirit to see this phenomenal project come to completion. Investment in our LRT entrances will make a world of difference to the tens of thousands of Edmontonians using transit every day. And housing incentives, bringing more permanent residents to the downtown is going to be deeply transformative. But that doesn't mean that there aren't still very important aspects of this work to work through. As others have highlighted, this deal makes sense as a package, not as individual projects. So it's incredibly important that we have mechanisms in the master agreement that these projects are delivered as a package. This means ensuring that we have, so, you know, I want to be clear and so that there's no ambiguity that my support of the master agreement is contingent on a number of things. So ensuring that we have housing units that will provide the tax revenue to support other vibrancy investments through Event Park. We also heard through the conversation, you know, the need for commitments to connecting Village and Event Park to district energy, supporting local members, ensuring that the size and scheduling of Event Park meets the needs of our community members, and also clear understanding of responsibilities for building maintenance and capital renewal. These are things I'll be looking for when the master agreement comes back to us. And I, in advance, just want to share my gratitude for our staff who will be doing that hard work over the coming weeks. They have been working on this file for months, and I'm really grateful for everything that they're doing to ensure the best possible outcome for Edmontonians. And there's more work ahead as we've discussed. I'm excited to initiate a conversation with our provincial partners about the next phase of funding, and look forward to bringing forward a motion about that next week. So thank you again to our staff, to our partners, to all the speakers, to my colleagues. I encourage you to support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stevenson. So please vote.
Just waiting on one vote. Councillor Hamilton? We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please. That is carried. Councillor Stevenson, second reading.
So moved.
Okay, I second it. Please vote for the second reading.
Just 1 second, we're loading the vote. We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please. That is carried. Consideration for third reading, Councillor Stevenson.
Yeah, I'll move consideration of third reading.
I'll second. Please vote. Yeah.
We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please. Consideration is granted. Final reading, Councillor Stevenson.
I'll move third and final reading of bylaw 21158.
Okay, I'll second that. Please vote.
We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please. That is carried. Notes of motions or motion without customary notice? No subsequents, nothing. We are adjourned. 7:19.